Well, welcome, welcome. Consistent faces, faces I haven't seen in a while, and brand new faces. Everyone's kind of mixed in. So for those of you that are new, my name's Quint, and I teach meditation every single week here. No, I'm filling in for Melissa. She is the owner, and she normally teaches here the meditation classes every Tuesday night. But she and her husband are at a Avett Brothers concert tonight. So yeah, I had to think about that for a split second. All right, well, let's see here. Who has never meditated before? Okay, 1, 2, fantastic. And Jack's not here, so we don't have our classic guy. Well, fantastic, fantastic. So today we're gonna kind of go through getting back to the basics, but I had a thought that I want to share with it. When Melissa asked me if I'd be interested in covering, she said, you know, the theme for May is reflection. She's like, so every meditation that we're doing in the month of May has this idea of reflection built into it. And so I was kind of thinking about it on that, and I was thinking about the role that reflection plays in our lives, right? Not just in meditation, but in a mindfulness practice in general. And it is, in some sense, the core of it, right? In some practices, we do try to focus on creating this separation between ourselves and our thoughts. But then at some point, there's a moment where we say, okay, now I'm going to choose to engage again. And I'm hoping that I have a greater sense of awareness of each of the individual parts, so much so that I can kind of pull it all back together. So what we're all shooting for. Hi. Whether or not we actually manage to pull it off, there's always that challenge, right? But it's interesting because it made me think, back when I was studying philosophy, one of the philosophers who now no one really knows about him, he's kind of, he was very famous in his lifetime, but his name was Franz Brentano, and he lived at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. So it's very interesting. In his lifetime, he was one of the first philosophers. He grew up in, I believe in Austria, but went back and forth between Germany and Austria. And of course, you know, this is when Prussia is becoming a thing, and then you have Germany. But in his lifetime, he taught several people, and his main idea was about intentionality and how the mind needs a point of focus for things. And it's very interesting because Freud attended his lectures. Edmund Husserl, who's the founder of phenomenology, it's a school of philosophy which led to Martin Heidegger and the idea of existence and being, things like that. He influenced all these other people. You know, it's kind of one of those interesting things when all your students become so successful, it's like no one remembers you anymore. It was like you're the seed for all these different ideas, but then they kind of outshine you, right? Which I think as a teacher, it's what you would hope, right? But his life was very, very interesting. And I found this book a couple years back, and it was some of his students, they kind of compiled in English, like a summary of his ideas, but then they also talked about experiences they had with him, things like that. Very interesting man. He started off as a Catholic priest, and then no one talks about this now, but there was a point in the end of the mid part of the 19th century where a new pope was elected, and then there was this discussion about could the pope have infallibility. And he wrote a lot of different things for theology, and he's like, I'm not so certain about that. So he eventually, he was never officially excommunicated, but he kind of went in this road where he said, well, I'm not sure if I believe in that, but let me give you the reason why I don't. And he kind of would talk, and they'd have this discussion. And then eventually at some point said, you know, you can't be a part of the parish anymore. He's like, okay, well, I guess I'll go get married now. Which I always think is an interesting thing, you know, the moment that's no longer on the table. But the rest of his life, he continued to read scripture, but he became one of those people, right, that's like observing from the outside, had a very deep spiritual connection to things, but also would not necessarily do these long discussions about what that would mean specifically. Anyway, one of his students had just talked to him, and when this was all happening, and he asked him, like, what do you recommend that people start off their day with? And so this is all now tying back into our meditation class. So he was talking to him, and he asked Brentano, like, how would you structure his day? And Brentano had wrote back to him, and they were discussing about philosophy. He said, the person who is not contemplative to me seems to me hardly to be alive. And a philosopher who does not use and practice contemplation does not deserve the name. He or she is no longer a philosopher, but an artisan, and a scientific one. He meant this, in a derogatory sense. For heaven's sake, let nothing shake your resolve to dedicate a little time each day to contemplation. Unfaithfulness to the purposes which God or the universe inspires in you would take its bitter revenge. Perhaps your most beautiful flower of life, only half opened, would wither away forever. And if I could only express to you how immeasurable this loss would be, I cannot, but the one thing I can say truly is that I would rather throw my whole profession of learning to the wind, and I would rather even die than give up contemplation. So I remember when I read that kind of stuck out to me, right? It's like contemplation, and I think you could say reflection generally, right? It's the foundation, it's the bedrock for all of these other things. And I always thought it was interesting that as a philosopher, his main contribution to Western philosophy was the concept of the intentionality of our mind, right? Being directed towards something. And to me, when I read that, I always took it as like reflection and contemplation kind of has to be the bedrock before we can go into intentionality. And then, of course, there's what comes next with intentionality. But it starts off with we have to have that awareness, right? And that only comes through reflection. When we're constantly going, we're constantly doing, we no longer observe these things. We don't become aware of them. We just pass by and don't think about it. So, all that to say, we're going to start off with a meditation tonight focusing on the breath. Because, again, it's the energy of the body. It's always the beginning part. So, Melissa always talks about this. If you're feeling warm, first of all, you don't have to sit cross-legged necessarily. If anyone's feeling tight in the back or in the knees, you can always go sit on one of the chairs in the back. Otherwise, if you're feeling a little bit warm, hands can be on the knees, but if you would like to cool off, you can have, for men, it's right hand underneath the left. For thank you. That too. No, I was trying to remember the Sanskrit word for like the right side versus the left side. When I taught Lady Nuguma Yoga, I drilled this into people's heads every single week for 3 years, and then lo and behold, I'm the guy that forgets it. And then, of course, if you're a woman, left hand underneath right. All right, or again, hands can be here. But this is, if you want to anchor in, ground, or if you're trying to draw more energy in. It's up to you. All righty, so let's close our eyes. Wendy, do you mind dimming the back lights, dim the forward lights a little bit and then turn the back lights off? Yes. Oh, a little bit higher. Yeah. A little more. It's okay. It took me a year to figure out the art of this. All right. Cool. All right. So let's begin by closing the eyes. Taking a nice deep breath in. And on the exhale, just think relax. Very good. Take another deep breath in. Exhale, going deeper. One more deep breath in. Exhale, relaxing and going deeper. Just beginning. Draw the point of a focus, just thinking about counting backwards. We're going to start from 20 and go back. If you would like, you can picture or imagine that you're standing in an elevator, staring at the screen, and you can kind of see the number going down as the elevator goes down, starting holding that point of focus in your mind. 20, 19, just focusing on the breath. 18, 17, 16, bring your attention back to the breath. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, going back to the breath, 7, 6, 5, see it in your mind, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now drawing attention specifically just to the breath now. Inhale, feeling it go through the nose. Exhale, being aware of it leaving the nose. Very good. And on your next inhale, picture or imagine seeing that oxygen as it goes in through the lungs, the blood, and then it goes through the body. Fingertips and the toes. Exhale. So now you see that the breath begins to interact with every part of the body. It is the energy. Taking a nice deep breath in. Exhale, letting it go. Feel your body sinking even deeper. Coming back to the breath. Being aware, taking a nice deep breath in. The next exhale. And the next deep breath in, see and feel it go through the body. Exhale, going even deeper. Just to keep your attention there. beginning to draw your awareness to your body. And as you continue to breathe, thinking and noticing anything you feel in the body, pain, discomfort, neutral feelings. Remember, it's often the neutral feelings we tend to not notice. They kind of just slip by. Bring your attention back to the breath. And then the next exhale, just sink 10 times deeper. And now, keeping your eyes closed, just drawing your attention now away from the body to your surroundings. Every sound, smell, while continuing to focus on the breath. And the next exhale, return back to focusing on the body. Notice if anything's changed. Just drawing your attention now back to the breath. Noticing your thoughts. Take another deep breath in. Exhale, letting go. And then slowly beginning to feel some warmth. Perhaps it starts in the chest and begins to work its way out through the body. Feel it. Perhaps you begin to wiggle the fingers, the toes. Bringing a little more movement back to the body. Perhaps you shrug the shoulders, move the neck. And just let your eyes be the very last thing to open, taking your time. Anyone have any experiences they would like to share? Did anyone notice a difference in how they felt in their body before, and then we kind of had that moment of taking our surroundings and then coming back?
Yeah, I noticed as I was paying attention to areas of discomfort, then it just kind of went away. It was like just something, bringing my attention to it kind of made that discomfort disappear.
Yeah, yeah.
And also having thoughts of that, what you said in the beginning about contemplation and reflection made me think about being teachable.
Yeah.
No, agreed. That's also agreed. Yeah, I had like stomach cramping when I came in, and then I got to go away. I feel like I did something Tamara talked about, like one of my first meditations, and now I'm Reiki certified. I feel like I did Reiki on my stomach a little bit, but yeah, and then being teachable. And being like, knowing when you're like not acting accordingly, and then, you know, just basically speaking up to yourself about it and like keeping yourself checked all the time. Just continuing to grow.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? Realizing when we're kind of putting, I was going to say lying to ourselves, but diluting things, right? Yeah, yeah. I don't know about any of you, but one thing I've always noticed is I used to teach, when I used to do meditations, the way I would teach I would say, we're just going to focus on a breath and do nothing else for 20 minutes and before we do anything. And that was just my own experience. I'm not sure how many of you ever tried the Joe Dispenza, like his meditation series for when he talks about transcendental meditation. But one thing he focuses on there is this process of working hard to overcome the body, right? So it's like, I feel discomfort, I feel pain, I feel whatever comes up. And his thing is, just sit with it, don't try to move. And it is funny, because like, sometimes the pain doesn't always go away, I'll be honest. It depends on, how good your half lotus is. But it is interesting, because about 10, 12, 15 minutes in, all of a sudden you have this point where your thoughts just drastically slow down. And I feel like that's really the point of when you can kind of get in there and start to take inventory of stuff. It's hard though, right? Because sometimes you don't always have 20 minutes to sit. And you figure if it takes 12 to 15 minutes to kind of get in before you can start doing the work. All that to say though, it is interesting because it's like, so this is the beginning part of focusing back to the breath, draw that point of attention. But you notice that, going to Tamara's point also with pages, whether you have Reiki or not, you do start to have this moment. It's like, okay, I bring awareness to it, and then the pain starts to subside. And then you notice, right, your thoughts start to slow down. Not ending yet, but it's at a point that you could start to kind of sit and work with it. Anyway, any other thoughts, questions? No. You guys are quiet tonight. Everyone's like, well, it's thanks. Yeah, well, there was a little, there was a little bit of hypnosis in there too.
That's what
Yeah.
I feel like this time, and I've been coming for a year.
Mhm.
I mean, I could really like when you like go deeper. I was like, well, I felt like I could really. I was deeper. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
It was nice.
you know, there's a debate over whether or not you should mix hypnosis with meditation. But my thought on it is like, exactly. And I feel like if you're a beginner, like it's much, much easier. You know, if someone could have done yoga nidra with me for like a year before starting regular meditation practices, I would have thought that would have been great. But anyway, this is Gospel According Quint. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you all. Oh, this Saturday, announcements. That's right, and I got to do that too. This Saturday we have hiking club, which I'm leading, as if I'm forgetting. Oh, I remembered now. It's oh shoot, now it's gone again. The left and the right. It popped into my head during meditation. One of those distracting thoughts just came in and said, "Oh, you know it." Dashina and well, I got half of it. So Dashina and shoot, the energy of the moon. Well, another day. Come back next week. You'll get the answer. But so we have hiking club this Saturday. We're going to be paddleboard kayaking activities. So this is the first year like we're consistently doing stuff during the summer. Normally we take a break and we do like one summer hike. But last year we did one summer hike and it was hugely well attended up in Sea Springs, like in between Payson and Sholo. And we did one paddleboard kayak activity on the Salt River, and it was also really well attended. So this year we're going for it. We're going to cover a lot of stuff. So this Saturday, Canyon Lake, paddleboard kayaking. If you do not have a paddleboard or kayak, no worries. They have a rental place there you can go to. I have all the information put in moments, so you can just click the link, go to their website. You do need to sign up ahead of time for that. Preferably, I'd like it if you signed up ahead of time for our thing too, but that really, I mean, that you won't get a paddleboard or a kayak otherwise. We're going to leave here at 7:30 for those of us that are planning on carpooling, and we're going to meet there at 8:30. I would recommend come at 8:30 because it takes time to blow everything up, you know, and what the pumps and everything like that. And we're going to start at 9. We're probably only going to be doing about an hour and a half. There's just one or two coves in Canyon Lake that you can kind of go into, and we're mainly going to be doing that and then coming back out. So this is like if you've never paddleboard or kayak before and you're like, I would like to, but the Salt River seems intimidating. That's it. This is going to be the one for you. And then next month we'll do a hike up north. Then the month after that, Salt River, paddleboard, kayak activity. And then month after that, up north again, but different location. I think that's it for this week. Wendy, am I forgetting something the next like 2 weeks? I feel like... No.
I can't think of any other events.
Yeah. Oh, first week of June, kids camp. And so Monday, Wednesday, Friday is for children the age of 9 to 11. 9 to 12. 9 to 12. And then Tuesday, Thursday is children 5 to 8. So, and we've got games, activities, lots of things. So as a parent, if you're just like, I just need to drop them off and run errands and come back, you have that little break. But yeah, so. All right. Of course.